Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Johnny Carson, remember Johnny Carson? For those of us who may be a little bit older, the former host of NBC's The Tonight Show. Well, Johnny Carson had a rather cynical take on Thanksgiving. He quipped that Thanksgiving is such an emotional holiday. People travel for thousands of miles to be with people they only see once a year, and then discover that once a year is way too often. Well, that's certainly not true in my family, and I'm sure it's not true in yours either. You know, I'm not near as cynical about Thanksgiving as Carson. I think for a Christian, for anyone really, Thanksgiving is a very meaningful holiday. So today, started thinking this week, today I thought I'd mention some things that may not come immediately to our mind when we start thinking about things to be thankful for. First, think about being thankful for our most influential teachers. A few decades ago, a middle-aged pastor and writer named William Stidger, he's reflecting on his gratitude for a teacher he had in his youth. And this teacher had introduced him to great literature. And she had sparked a love that he now had for the written word, and it had a major influence on his future vocations. And he realized he had never thanked this woman for all she had done for him and how he had touched his life. So he decided that very night, as he was reflecting on her, that he would pen her a handwritten thank you letter. And just a few days later, he received a reply. It was written in a very shaky scrawl. It read, "My dear Willie, I am now an old lady in my 80s, living alone in a small room, cooking my own meals, lonely, and seemingly like the last leaf of fall left behind. You'll be interested to know, my dear Willie, that I taught school for 50 years. And in all that time, yours is the first note of appreciation I ever received." She wrote, "It came out of the blue on a blue, cold morning, and it cheered my lonely heart as nothing has cheered me in many years." Isn't that beautiful? I've had some tremendous teachers in my life. And as I read this story, I started reflecting. It's not a stretch to say that some of my teachers have literally changed the course of my life. So this Thanksgiving week, I sent a thank you letter to two of my most influential teachers. Now, they'll never realize probably what an influence they had on me, but I wrote them a letter to try to express it, and I thanked God for them too. Who are some of your most influential teachers? Thinking about giving thanks to them today. Next, think about giving thanks to God for the fleas in our lives. Let me explain. Corrie ten Boom is a big name in Baptist circles. I heard a lot about this very amazing woman when I was a boy. She was arrested by the Germans, and her sister Betsy were kept in the Nazi concentration camp at Ravensbrück. This camp, of course, was incredibly overcrowded, and it was flea infested, fleas everywhere. The two sisters had amazingly been able to smuggle in a Bible into the camp. And in the Bible, during all of these troubles they are going through in a Nazi concentration camp, the passages that kept coming to them was to give thanks for everything. Give thanks for everything, that God will somehow bring good out of it. Can you imagine the challenge it was for them to pray that way, to give God thanks for everything as they were in a Nazi concentration camp? Betsy, Corrie ten Boom's sister, decided that this meant that her and Corrie should give thanks for the fleas that were biting them and that were in where they lived. Well, Corrie ten Boom, this is just too much for her. She said she could do no such thing, but her sister kept insisting. So Corrie gave in and prayed to God, thanking God for even all the fleas in their lives. Over the next several months, a wonderful but curious thing happened. They found that the guards, the Nazi guards, never came in to their barracks. This meant that the women were not assaulted like the Nazis could do. It also meant that they were able to do the unthinkable. Because the guards wouldn't come in, they were able to do Bible studies there and prayer meetings right in the heart of a Nazi concentration camp. Through this, they gave many women hope in a very otherwise hopeless environment. Only at the end did they discover that the guards have left them alone and would not enter their barracks because of the fleas. They didn't want to get the fleas on them. So maybe, brothers and sisters in Christ, take some time this Thanksgiving and give some thanks for the fleas in our lives, remembering those fleas at Ravensbrück, having the faith that the all-good and provident God, in the end, will in some way bring great good from them. The fleas in our lives and teachers. Third thing maybe that we wouldn't think about to give thanks for is to thank God for our unanswered prayers. I've used this story before. It's a great story. It's from Protestant preacher and writer Tim Keller. Keller said that while he was in college, he was so in love with this girl, absolutely madly in love with this girl. And he prayed an entire year that this girl he was dating would marry him and wouldn't break up with him. She wanted out of the relationship. Keller prayed a whole year, Lord, don't let her break up with me. Please, I love this girl. Please don't let her break up with me. Well, of course, she did. She broke up with him. In hindsight, Keller realized that it was the best thing for him because she just wasn't the one for him. He later married another love of his life and his true soulmate. Keller said, as I look back, God was saying, son, when a child of mine makes a request, I always give that person what he or she would have asked for if they knew everything I knew. So brothers and sisters, today maybe give thanks to God for our unanswered prayers. The main point I want to make this Thanksgiving is certainly give thanks for the usual things we give thanks for, faith, family, friends. But search harder, go deeper. Give thanks for our forgotten teachers, the fleas in our lives, and our unanswered prayers. And then go even further, go deeper. Take out a flashlight and search in the nooks and the crannies of our lives. Because brothers and sisters, in those nooks and crannies, we will discover some great, great treasures that God in his goodness and in God's providence has given us. And we can give thanks for those. You know, when the great prophet Isaiah was shown the throne room, he saw God, he saw the Lord seated on a high and lofty throne, and the seraphim were stationed above, and they were crying out loud to each other, holy, holy, holy is the Lord of hosts. All on earth, even in our nooks and crannies, all earth, everywhere is filled with the glory of God, and we can give thanks.